All I keep hearing this morning is imagine. Imagine a world where we look after one another. Imagine a world where we made sure that everyone was fed and everyone had clean water and everyone had a home and shelter. Imagine a world where we were all allowed to be here and we all deserved to be here and we all had access to all the basic needs without fighting, without war. Imagine a world where we all belonged and this was our home and resting place. Imagine a world where our well-being as people and the well-being of the planet that we inhabit was the main priority. Imagine. Yesterday, I watched a Michael Moore documentary called 11/9 Fahrenheit. I believe it was his most recent works. And I've watched Michael Moore throughout the years, and it was in watching Roger and Me back in 2001 at the University of British Columbia. Shortly after 9/11 happened, and that's when I had the insight of the paradigm shift. Well, clearly, there needs to be a paradigm shift. You know, humanity has to change its values and its belief systems if we want to survive here. And now, almost 20 years later, it seems like things have just gotten worse. And while I was watching this documentary, at one point, the young children, not the young children, the teenagers in the film who are the generation that are going to change things. It was a really interesting bit when they were asking questions to their representatives and their politicians. And I had a few different, downloads of how traumatized our leaders and how disconnected are the adults to not be able to give straight answers to these young people, to not be able to be real and honest and open about what's going on, talking to them as if they couldn't possibly know, or and I just think, then why have we created a system that is so confusing, if not to baffle gaff? And the adults don't know. And at one point, and this is so often what has driven me to do what I do and share what I share, is one of the adults, it was a female representative. And at one point she said that classic thing, which I'm sure the majority of my class back at university said to me when I mentioned paradigm shift, was, oh, well, it's just the way it is. No, that's just not true at all. This level of deception and corruption has only been more corrupted in the last century, as in the distortion of manipulation via mass deception really hit home in World War II. And yet that through line of divide and conquer has been a dominant fear-based perception in humanity for thousands of years. But it doesn't have to be that way or this way. We as a people on this planet can and are able to choose something different. Imagine it. And I hold space for my own heart to continue to imagine it too. A world that's more loving and compassionate. And I simply put it on a scale. If we all do create our own realities, and if a few people on this planet have been able to create a world of fear and war and poverty and oppression, why can't I create the other? Or rather, we. I pray a lot for myself as one with the people and the creatures of this planet. I know it's all contained in love, and I know in truth there is no duality. And there's this deep, deep knowing that as beings we have great potential to rise out of this darkness and deception. The burden in the heart is that we have to face that we've been lied to. We have to face the shame and the fear, the great fear, and the deception that we sold out to for money. We make excuses to one another all the time. Why we can't help one another, why we can't support one another. I believe things are changing, radically so. It's always in the here and now that we choose to feed the fear of our debt-based economy versus loving and supporting our friends and the people we love. In each and every moment, we can either make an excuse as to why we can't show up for one another, or we just show up for one another. I didn't know this was how things were going to unfold for me, for All to Love. I'm acutely aware of All to Love having this sort of life force now that I'm beholden to, like a child. like I truly am being guided by love and a very profound desire to live in peace and joy and fun. And being me, I don't quite know why love, talking about endeavoring a global paradigm shift for greater compassion and love and harmony, is so radical or so ridiculed or so belittled. And so I pray. I pray that the world can see, feel, be, love, choose love. Imagine it. Just imagine it. It's not that hard. Love is an organizing power beyond our excuses, beyond our debt. And it feels so good to be in love, to live in love. And yeah, there's emotion. I feel, and I know this community feels. And we've somehow been deceived that the feeling is somehow uncivil or hysterical. What a lie. In fact, really, the non-feeling is such a great distortion. Watching these adults in their jobs belittling and speaking down to, and knowing they're so confused. I'm not afraid. What a relief to know how to look after myself as a creator, human. To love myself deeply, so because of my kindness and generosity and compassion and innocence, purity, having healed the other. I just kept hearing this morning, imagine, imagine, imagine. And that's what I'll do. I'll just keep imagining. That I'm loved, that I'm supported, and that I live in this paradise of people who shine and love one another with clean water, magical mountains, mystical seas and orchards and fields and delicious, yummy, yummy food, energy, fluid flowing energy. Just imagine. It's all we need to do.